What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home here at fakepigskin.com. I am your host, Kyle Robert. Follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me to break down another week of the NFL, it's Brian Twining. Brian, what's up? How's everything? And are you ready for some Week 5 action?
I'm doing great, and I'm ready to continue the winning streak here. As you know, we had the Ravens as like the hammer of the century lock pick, and thankfully for a miraculous fake punt, they were able to hit that. And I actually got their team total first half over, which was actually 16.5. So I was pretty excited about that as well. So I'm looking forward to this week 5 interesting slate.
Yeah, and then I remember we were texting during the Packers Monday night game about their team total, and seemed like it wasn't going to go over, and then it did. So everything's coming up, Brian. Before we dive into the Week 5 slate, before we get you ready for another week of NFL, make sure you mash that thumbs up. If you're listening on the podcast version, make sure you subscribe to the show, rate, review, do all that stuff. Spread the word around about the Angle of Pursuit. We help get you set for your fantasy lineups. We're here every Sunday morning from 11:30 to 12:30 Eastern. We talk some NASCAR, we talk some fantasy, we talk some sports betting. If there's stuff that you want us to hit on that we're not, hit us up on Twitter at FPAOP. But without further ado, Brian, let's jump in. Let's talk NFL Week 5. And let's start with an interesting matchup in those Pittsburgh Steelers coming off a pseudo bye. My Titans don't know how to not they just don't follow the rules. There's a lot going on schedule wise this week. Be ready for that. It sounds like Bills Titans will be Tuesday. It sounds like the Patriots game is going to get moved to Monday against the Broncos, so we won't have lines on that.
And we won't even know if what Cam Newton's availability is yet, because we don't know if he's had the negative COVID tests or not.
Right. And then even with and then they're saying the Bills game next week, which is supposed to be Thursday night, is going to get moved to Sunday because the Bills start on Tuesday. But if the Bills Titans game doesn't happen on Tuesday, then they'll probably play on Thursday as normal. There's a lot going on. So I would, if in general, just find stuff that you feel good and safe about. Don't put your hard-earned money on Cam potentially or not potentially playing. Jarrett Stidham looked good. If he starts for New England, I think I'll feel good about him. But Brian Hoyer may start, but Cam Newton may start. But we don't know who's starting for Denver. Is it Drew Lock? Is it, are we doing the Jeff Driscoll? Are we doing the Brett Rippon? There's just a lot going on. So if you could avoid that nonsense, just do it. But let's talk Steelers. Let's talk Eagles. The Eagles looked less shitty on Sunday night.
They still looked like a not a good football team.
They're so messed up, and they somehow won that game. I love that line. I love that number. I hammered it everywhere, and it didn't work out. Nick Mullins turned into a pumpkin. Looked awful. Carson Wentz made a couple plays. Had a beautiful play to Travis Fulgham, I think his name is. Had a beautiful touchdown, but Zach Ertz is not the same guy. No Dallas Goedert. Miles Sanders was bottled up. Now they're facing a Steelers defense that may have the most complete defense on all three levels. The offense looks great. They've had a week off. Ben Roethlisberger's complaining because, Ben Roethlisberger complains about everything. That being said, we're looking at numbers. We're talking lines. Steelers are 7-point favorites, and I think I'm going to go back to the well again and hammer it against this Eagles team that it went from Philly to San Francisco, back to Philly, now going to Pittsburgh. I know it's in the same state, but it's still traveling. Where's your head at with this game?
This is a game that is it's really difficult for me to kind of gauge where I'm going to fall when it comes to selecting either the Steelers or the Eagles with the line. And it's something that I'll probably be avoiding on my tickets, and I'll be going more towards the total. And looking at both of these teams, and as good as Pittsburgh's offense has been, the strength of their team is their defense. when looking at Philadelphia, the reason why they were able to hang in there and wind up eventually beating San Francisco was because of their defense. And for everything good that Pittsburgh was able to do on the offensive side of the ball, Philadelphia, they're going to get to the quarterback, and they're gonna be in Roethlisberger's face. They're going to do everything possible to limit what James Conner can do, because Darius Slay is going to be out there probably, I would guess, shadowing Deontay Johnson, because they move him around the formation less than what they do with Juju. And we've seen Juju and Ben Roethlisberger not really be on the same page that often this year, whereas Johnson has been his favorite target. And if Philly is able to kind of limit the ability of Ben Roethlisberger to kind of, Deontay all game, I think this offense could struggle early on. And this game could be one of those sneaky 23-20 finishes where both offenses are just trying to find their way throughout the game. And Pittsburgh will wind up on top with a game-winning field goal by Chris Boswell.
So
I hate betting unders, by the way. That's you only bet unders to lose money.
No. Unders are statistically the best way to make money, because the general public tends to bet over, so they crank them up and people bet them again. But
they're not fun. Like, the point of this is to be fun.
No, the point of it is to make money and to win money. And if you want to win money, you bet unders. And I know it's not fun, and I know you're rooting for both teams to suck, but it's fun. So here's where I'm at with this Eagles team, because in theory, correct, you are. However, Lane Johnson couldn't stay on the game Sunday night. He's limited in practice already. Fletcher Cox went out with an injury. He was on rest today. We'll see if he plays. Everything is trending towards him playing, but we'll see. Darius Slay got a helmet to the knee again from Brandon Ayuk. Had to come out of the game. He's not listed on the practice report, so that's a good sign. Avonte Maddox is out. Deshaun Jackson is back on a limited basis. The unfortunate sign is I don't think the Steelers are going to be as inept as the Niners were. And the Niners' ineptness was what kept Philly in the game. The Steelers' offense is great. Their defense is going to shut down Miles Sanders, who couldn't get going against that Niners defense. And by the way, Miles Sanders, if you're looking for a great buy low candidate, go to the Miles Sanders owner in about 2 or 3 weeks. They play Pittsburgh this week. They play Baltimore next week. He's going to underwhelm in a big way in both those contests. If you have him on your team, I would be sitting him. Assuming you have something, obviously with all the injuries, who knows? Like, he may be your best option. Like, if you're thinking of Dearness Johnson or like Jeff Wilson, like obviously put Miles Sanders, but he's going to underwhelm in a big way on both those games. Then you're going to go get him. Then you're going to have all the fun and all the productivity.
Still has 2 games against my Cowboys.
Exactly. So my big things are coming for Miles Sanders. I just don't think it's this week, and I think that's going to cause Carson Wentz a lot of issues. There's a lot of Richard Rodgers and Travis Fulgham and just a lot of nothing, and Carson's just running for his life. And if Lane Johnson can't stay on the field and Jason Kelce is having issues with the snap, and they're going to try this Jalen Hurts thing, like I think Pittsburgh does what I expected the Niners to do a week ago, and wins this game by double digits.
Yeah, even if that were to happen, because if that were to happen, I see this as being a situation where Philadelphia is just completely shut down on offense, and Pittsburgh maybe wins this like 30-10 or 30-13. So for me, I'd still avoid the line, because even 7.5, even in a game at home in Pittsburgh, is a lot in the NFL. Like, all it takes is that last second, the bull crap, missed extra point, or some weird crap like that. So I'm definitely leaning the under in this game.
What's our I'm pulling up the team total for Pittsburgh, because I think that might be an interesting way.
I think it's 26.5.
Yeah, man,
that's tricky, because Pittsburgh, you see it with them, like they look like they were dominating Denver, and then they allowed Denver to get back into it when the offense just like disappeared, throughout the second half of that game. So, this is a tricky game for me.
Yeah, like they have their total touchdowns over 2.5. It's -155, so I don't love that, but I feel like they could score 3 touchdowns pretty easily. But yeah, I'd rather just do the points than mess around with the like trying to score touchdowns, because if they end up kicking 5 field goals and score the points anyways, what does it matter?
Yeah.
Let's keep it rolling. Let's talk about the next game on our schedule. And Houston Texans finally did it. They said, Bill O'Brien, we've had it. Apparently there was some on-field, I don't know what you want to call it, but between him and JJ Watt, there was a whole ordeal. But Bill O'Brien continued to fail, continued to give himself more responsibility. And the organization finally said, nah, we're done. We're done. So now Houston gets to play their first game without Bill O'Brien. Romeo Crennel's their coach. I don't know if that's an upgrade. I still have questions about that. But now the Texans are home. They're what, a touchdown favorite?
I think it's sitting right around 6 right now.
Okay, so just inside of a touchdown favorite. I guess where is your head at? With the Texans, and like, do you think we're it opened at 6.5? It's down to 6, maybe 5.5, 5, depending on where you look. Like, do you think there's value with the Texans? Do you think the coaching change is going to matter, or do you think this team has more problems and maybe Jacksonville can find a way to keep it somewhat close?
This is a game right here where when I first saw the schedule, as I don't like to look too far ahead, so I waited till like Sunday night. This was one of the first games that I thought to myself, okay, this is a situation where I'm going to allow the public to take the dog and let that line kind of shrink. And then on Sunday morning, see if I can get this at like a 4.5 or a 5 for Houston, because I really do think that with the departure of Bob over there in Houston, I think we're going to see a much more organized and like level kind of offense. I think you're going to see a lot more traditional running with David Johnson, knowing that he is not the guy to get to the outside. Like, I know their offensive line is terrible, but they're going to have to, in order for them to win games going forward, they're going to have to establish some sort of, continuity on the offensive side of the ball while running the ball with David Johnson, get him involved, as he can do everything. And I think this is actually a big week for Johnson to break out. And I like Houston to win this game and cover the line pretty decisively in a situation where I think JJ Watt is going to be crucial to their defensive plans, getting in Minshew's face. They're going to do everything possible to stop big play James Robinson. He's taken over for James Washington because he doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, so for me, I love Houston laying the points here, and they're probably in a situation where I think they're going to have fans at their game, so I think that'll be crucial for them as well.
So, I guess for first things first, I'm looking at the Texans as a potential defensive streaming option this week. I've
Me
seen
too.
them available in a couple leagues. I don't know that I love it, but because I've watched a lot of them, but I'm a little more optimistic, especially against this Jacksonville team. They against Minnesota took 3.5 quarters to finally figure it out. But like, they have 3 receivers that can stretch the field, that can run really deep and catch long touchdowns. And Deshaun Watson has a phenomenal deep ball. Will Fuller, when he's healthy, it looks great. Minnesota obviously is not good against the pass, but I'm not sure Jacksonville is either. I'm looking at the Texans team total of 30.5. That feels aggressive. But could we see a 31-17 kind of game where the offense looks like it's clicking and Deshaun Watson looks good, and we're reminded how impressive this Texans offense can be?
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm anticipating with this game, is that I think you see a lot more balanced attack, whether it be just kind of the percentage of run to pass plays, but not only that, I think we see a couple wide receivers actually see more than freaking 2 to 3 targets in this game. And it's not just Will Fuller or Brandon Cooks or Randall Cobb as being the guy who's seeing everything. Like, I think you see Deshaun Watson play his best game of the season. I mean, he's been all over the place this year, just throwing balls into the ground, like running for his life. Yeah. I really think that as bad as Romeo Crennel has been as a head coach, and he's one of the failed Belichick disciples. I think his like history in the NFL and knowing that you need to have an established running game. You need to sometimes you just go back to basics. I think we see the Texans do that this week, and this is their get right game in a situation where they're still in it if they can get on a roll here.
Yeah, well, and the way the Titans are trending, that looks like they're not going to make the playoffs or be even in the league anymore. So
exactly,
we'll see what they do.
They're going to get relegated to the Europe League that doesn't exist anymore.
Let's keep it rolling. Let's talk about potentially my favorite game of the week, and that is the Minnesota Vikings heading to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. No Jamal Adams once again. The line is sitting at 7. I'm compelled to take the Vikings here. I just have a fear that Russell Wilson might be a little too much, score a little one too many touchdowns,
and we might see positive regression from Russell Wilson,
we see like a 35-27, or I guess 37-27, 24-37, something like that. And I'm looking at the Vikings team total, and I want to see what you think, because right now the Vikings +7 is even money, +1 -115, depending on where you look. The team total is 23.5, which I love. It might be my favorite bet of the week. The juice on it though is -130. So you have to lay a lot more, like 15 cents more, and like. Is there a world where the Vikings score 24 or more and still lose by touchdown? Because I feel like there is, but I feel really good about that 23.5. So why? I don't know. What do you think? Like, where if you were betting this game, where are you betting?
So this is a game that I'm definitely going with the over in this one, because as much as Minnesota wants to control the clock and run the ball with Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison, that's not going to be enough against this quick strike Seahawks offense where Russell Wilson can just chuck it up deep to DK Metcalf in 2 plays and score a touchdown for 80 yards. So yeah. Minnesota is going to have to put points on the board. They're not going to be able to play keep away against these guys and think that they're going to be able to score 20 or 21 points and be able to come away with a victory. So they're also going to have to pick up their like bottom 5 pace currently and score some more points and move a little bit faster than they normally do. And yeah, it, like you said, the Minnesota team total, I think for me is my favorite side in this game because they're going to have to score. And with Justin Jefferson breaking out, Adam Thielen is still Adam Thielen, and Seattle's pass D is still Kaka. Like, yeah.
So Seattle's pass D is bad, but their rush D actually this season has been really good, partially because they're able to put up so many points. But like Todd Gurley has the most rushing yards with 56 against this team.
I was just going to say, I think that's more so them jumping out to those huge leads.
Yeah, because Zeke only got 34, Myles Gaskin got 40. Like there hasn't been like a big and for a Vikings team that wants to utilize Dalvin and Madison and then play action off of that, I worry that if Dalvin can't get going, that Minnesota may have issues with if Kirk Cousins is just dropping back. Like I feel like that's going to end poorly.
Yeah, but I really don't see that happening. Like I think Minnesota is good enough on the offensive side, like the offensive line, to be able to push Seattle's D line enough to create space for such an explosive runner in Dalvin Cook that Seattle's not going to be able to commit 8 guys into the box against the Vikings.
Yeah, and maybe they're able to get Dalvin involved in the passing game, and the emergence of Justin Jefferson has been huge.
Yep.
Yeah, but I think like I said, I still think the Vikings team total over is my favorite bet, even if you have to lay a little extra juice. I think it gives you more flexibility because if Seattle scores 40, the Vikings are going to probably score at least 24.
Yeah.
I don't see a game like a 17-13 game. Like I think Seattle coming home with no Jamal Adams all the way from Miami is going to open things up for Minnesota. Minnesota's looked good 2 weeks in a row offensively. I know as the Titans and Texans, but Seattle's also not good, especially in the secondary. So I'm looking at that team total. And we'll talk best bets here in a little bit, but that's a strong consideration. If we're looking at the best of the rest in week 5, is there any other numbers or totals or team totals or anything that really jumps out to you that you feel like there could be some potential value this week?
So one of the games that I was looking at is the Washington football team with their change at quarterback here. Kyle Allen is good. Like he's okay at quarterback, but he's not going to offer those big explosive plays the same way that Haskins was able to get the ball down the field. Like he had a big arm. So I really like in this game, I like the Washington team total under 18.5. Mm-hmm. The Rams have held 3 of their 4 opponents to 19 or below. And that was against Dallas in week 1. They gave up 17. Philly, they gave up 19 in a game that they were absolutely crushing them. So there's a lot of garbage time. And then their other game was against the Bills. But, I mean, that's the Bills are a completely different animal. And then last week they gave up 9 to the Giants. Now, for me, I'm just looking at this in terms of LA's traveling to the East Coast. I know that's not a good kind of success, but Washington's defense, for as good as they are, this LA Rams offense is just it's so dynamic in terms of what they're able to do, how they can just kind of change. They're like an amoeba this year that they'll be in the lead early. And I think that they're going to be milking the clock and limiting what Washington's able to do.
I like that call. And I like targeting the Washington team total because I feel like we've seen both versions of the Rams, and like you mentioned, as an amoeba offense, we saw them go to Buffalo and score a ton of points. We saw them be at home versus the Giants and look kind of whatever and end up doing okay. That's why I don't like the 7 or 7.5. I mean, it's come down from 9.5, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. But I like targeting Washington to score less than 18.5.
Yeah, 18.5.
I think that makes a ton of sense, especially with Kyle Allen under center. I think they're going to realize, like, oh, maybe Dwayne Haskins isn't the problem. Dwayne Haskins was 29 of 35 for 300 yards. Like, I don't know what else he has to do. I know, like, Terry McLaurin's there, but outside of that, like, do you feel great about any of their pass catchers? Antonio Gibson looks great. Looks like he's producing. But with Ramsey on McLaurin, that really limits what they're going to do passing wise. If they're going to try and use Gibson as their featured back, like, good luck against Aaron Donald and company. Like, I think that's another, and that's a way, like, if you don't feel good about the spread, but you feel like you have a really good grasp of how a game may play out, attacking stuff like team totals is a great way to get an edge on a game, not pay a heavy price, and not need the other offense to go crazy and outproduce.
Yeah, I think that's like the most important thing when looking at these is you don't always have to take a side when looking at the lines. Like, you can think a team is going to score, so many points, but maybe not cover the spread. So you just go with the team total, which is a lot easier to stomach from a betting perspective, because you're less likely to get anxiety over whether or not they're going to give up that last minute meaningless touchdown.
Yeah. Let's talk Jets and Cardinals. I think it's a very interesting game in terms of, like, the Jets are trash. Like, they're really bad. Like,
Joe Flacco
starting this game. Like, they're not good. But Arizona's had their like issues as well. And now they're, Arizona's traveling to New York, right? I did see that correctly.
Yes,
they're traveling. They're playing in MetLife. This Cardinals team, like, has fun players for fantasy, but Kenyon Drake hasn't got going. Kyler's been great, but offensively they're not producing a ton of points. Like, I don't know that I love them plus 7 or 7.5 or 8, or I want to keep an eye on this number because I feel like there could be a potential to buy the Jets, and I know that's scary and I know that's not fun, but if it gets 8.5, like, I feel like that's going to be a good point to maybe dive in on the Jets.
Yeah, this is a game that I'll probably be avoiding from a betting perspective at all costs. Just knowing that, like, Arizona, for as much as we talk them up preseason of having this extremely explosive offense, it just hasn't come to fruition yet because as many even with the numbers that Murray is putting up right now, he hasn't been consistent throwing the ball unless it's to DeAndre Hopkins, and he's really the only guy he's been able to get the ball to this year. And even while doing that, he's made some pretty bad decisions when trying to get the ball down the field. And this is another game that I really don't understand how the over under is upwards of 47 when the Jets are running old man Joe Flacco out there and they really have nothing on the offensive side of the ball other than other teams' throwaways. And this is also a Cardinals defense that is one of the best in the NFL at getting to the quarterback. So I could see this as another situation where Arizona gets up early and you don't see them pushing the ball down the field and the Jets are just like, continue. Okay. Sam Darnold was the Jets offense last week. Like it took him scoring a 50-something yard touchdown run for them to do anything. Yeah. And Joe Flacco is not, he's a statue back there. So that ain't happening.
So Arizona's team total is 27.5. And the under is -110. The over is -120. The last 4 weeks, they've scored 21, 23, 15, and 20.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
I think we just take the under on the Cardinals team total and ride the wave. Though we don't have to worry about what the Jets are doing. We know their defense will do enough, especially with the Cardinals going to the East Coast to play this game in the early slot. I feel like we're a broken record, but these team totals is where the value is. You don't have to worry about the more factors and randomness you can eliminate, the more consistently you can feel good about bets, and the more consistently you potentially can win. And
I like the team total of the Cardinals under in this because I don't see that happening. But I also like the total because how are the Jets going to score multiple touchdowns in this game against the Cardinals team who doesn't even score? You're going to see a lot of punting, field goals. Yeah.
I think both of those make a ton of sense. Any other games you want to hit on? The Browns are getting a lot of love. The Browns opened up as 2.5-point underdogs. Now it's down to 1 or pick 'em.
I'm not touching that game.
Is this a we saw them in national TV against the Cowboys, put it on the Cowboys, and now we think they're good? Or because that's what it feels like. And
I really feel like the public is doing just that. They think, oh my God, yeah, they're so good. But that's also against the Cowboys offense, who is continuously handing the other team the ball. And I like the Colts to win the game, but I'm not going to be placing any wagers, being that they are on the road, and we don't really know what the Cleveland ceiling is yet because they haven't had a real test of a team that poses any sort of threat yet.
Yeah, and I don't know what Indy is either. I want to say Indy's good because I like a lot of their defense. I like their defense is really good. But Phillip Rivers still is whatever. T.Y. Hilton's a non-factor. The running backs are in some sort of weird rotation where Jonathan Taylor and then Jordan Wilkins, but then Nyheim Hines. And the Browns, the best part of the Browns might be their defense. Their defense, especially that front seven, is legit. So
I will say on that note, I do like the Cleveland Browns as a potential streaming defense this week, just for the fact that they're able to get to the quarterback, and Phillip Rivers isn't going to be running around anybody, and he has the propensity of fumbling. And seeing what Myles Garrett was able to do last week with Dak Prescott, this is another situation where there's a potential for turnovers.
Yeah, I mean, I know last week the Cowboys were down big, so they couldn't run. But Zeke had 54 yards, Antonio Gibson had 49 yards, Joe Mixon had 46 yards. Those are the three most totals they've given up on the ground. And the Colts are so built off of the run, and without Michael Pittman, with T.Y. Hilton really struggling, no Paris Campbell, there, Zach Pascal, Mo Alley Cox. I think this could be like kind of like a ugly game like we expected the Bears Colts to be. And the under might actually be a good way to look at this game. I want to look at what the total is because I feel like that could be an interesting way. Yeah, it opened at 47. It's down to 46.5. It's about 50-50 in terms of their bets.
I'm definitely leaning the under on this game also. Like it's just one of those situations where they both pride themselves on running and the Colts have a really good defense. So
and no Nick Chubb, so like it's a lot of Kareem Hunt. I could see like a 17-13, 17-19 kind of game. Both teams stay under 20 points and the under cashes pretty easily. Okay, Brian, anything else before we hit our best? I guess what we should do is let's recap our week 5 bets. So I think we're both simpatico on the Washington football team under.
Yes.
The Cardinals under.
No. Yeah. I'll stamp that as one of mine. Yes.
The Vikings team total over.
Oh yeah, definite.
What other bets are you throwing on your card this week?
So I'm definitely going to be putting Houston minus. Currently, it's -6, so I'll take it at 6, upwards of 6.5. I'll take Houston.
Okay, anything under a touchdown.
And then, yeah, I don't think I'm going extremely heavy this week. Like these are some different games this week. It's not there's not as many that I'm in love with. So
no, I think the 3 team totals are 3 of my favorites. If I'm going to add to my card, the Giants plus the points is going to be incredibly interesting. I know the Giants aren't good. I know they've struggled, but they also had a really tough start to the schedule. They always play Dallas well. I know it's your boys, and I don't want to pick on them. But if I can get the Giants over like 8, I'm gonna be probably adding that to the card. And I also like the one game that, and I was on the Chargers last week. I got it at 7.5. Thankfully, that game ended at 7. Even with their blown fourth quarter, I was able to cash that ticket. Now they're going to New Orleans. They're getting 7.5 again, but it looks like the Saints are going to get some pieces back, including Michael Thomas. Dare I go back to that well again?
For me, I love the Saints in this situation. It's not I won't be betting extremely heavy on it because I am intrigued by what the Chargers are able to do on the offensive side of the ball, even minus Austin Eckler. Like I do think that they have some pieces there that could keep them in games. That being said, I would definitely be leaning the Saints against the spread with Thomas, even if he plays, half the snaps or he's a decoy or whatever. Like nobody on the Chargers is going to be able to stop Alvin Kamara.
I want to see what this line gets to. I think, obviously a Monday night games are get right games for a lot of people. I think the Seahawks Vikings could be like that too, where the Vikings have been bet down to 7, and by the time game time rolls around, it might be 8 or 9 again, as people try to recover from some of the losses earlier in the day. So like Vikings plus the points and Chargers. If I can get Chargers 8 or more, I'll probably be there, and then hope that it's close enough. But and then obviously the team totals. But let's hit our best bet. Brian, where is your best bet for week 5?
Man, this is going to be really tough, but I'm going to go with those Houston Texans that I was talking about against the line all the way up until a touchdown. I really think that this is the week that this winless Houston team, they circle their own wagons down there in the big Houston, and they're able to, right the ship. Yeah.
I'm going to go with the Vikings team total over. It's been my favorite bet all week. Even if you have to minus 130, 135, I think it's worth doing. And obviously, if you can get, like I said, if you can get the Vikings at 8 or 9, I think that's going to be a lot more of a compelling case than 7. As you mentioned, just taking the game over is probably a good way, because even if the Vikings get to say 21 instead of 24, but Seattle ends on another 30 some points,
Yep.
You're getting there. So I'll probably look at that as well. But the Vikings over 23.5 is my best bet for week number 5. As I mentioned, if you are enjoying what we're doing, make sure you mash that thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you rate and review if you're listening on the podcast. If you want some help Sunday morning with your fantasy rosters, join us live on YouTube. Brian and I are here from 11:30 to 12:30 Eastern. Help you set your lineups, lock in those final bets, all that good stuff ahead of week 5, ahead of each and every week. But with that said, for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to you guys next time.